helping you navigate the rocky path of fulfilling employment. Here's our career Sherpa, Julie Bauke.
Sloanie at 700 WLW. All right, we have the mask mandate for Hamilton, Butler, and Montgomery counties that may spread, probably going to spread to Warren and Claremont and others at some point. That's just how these things work. A lot of folks are headed back now. We're going back to work and try to resume the new normal. Our new normal is, I think, a couple people a day are coming back to our sales wing for a couple hours a day. They're all wearing masks at all times. Julie Bauke, how's this working out for people?
Oh, well, I think for most people, they're complying and they're doing what needs to be done because it really isn't that much of an inconvenience. But then you always have the people who, are going to throw a tantrum, who are, and are doing so across the country in various places. So this whole mask issue has multiple sides. I mean, there's a Whole Foods issue in Massachusetts. There's a Target issue in Arizona. Mm-hmm. And on and on and on. So, I think those are so few, but of course they get the most attention because it's interesting and fun to read about.
Right. What is reasonable at work? What's the policy, generally speaking? Where can it get a little bit, well, maybe it's too much or not enough?
It's hard to have one set of rules because everybody's workplace is very different. If you work at a Target, that's very different than working at a law firm or an accounting firm where you've got maybe 20, 25 people with ways for people to self-distance, social distance, and, not see each other. And in those kind of places, a lot of the rules are if you're getting up and moving about, then you need to wear your mask. But if you're in an enclosed space by yourself, you don't. And so those are the really easy places to put policies around. It's when you have the type of business that interacts with the public or has a lot of client contact, that's where I think it gets really tricky. And that's why we're seeing, I think, these big stories happen in like Costco, Whole Foods, Target, et cetera.
The Whole Food ones is interesting because, typically in the workplace, you are told do not make political statements in the workplace. We've heard stories about people getting disciplined or fired because of bumper stickers they've had on their car in a company parking lot, or a shirt or a button, or soliciting or whatever it might be, or campaigning or politicking in the workplace. And that for a long time, that's a no-go. All of a sudden, the George Floyd thing happens, and now people are boycotting Whole Foods because they are not allowing political symbols at work, meaning, Black Lives Matter masks or statements like that.
Yeah, so their at-work policy is you're not allowed to wear anything that's got any logo on it or statement other than companies like Whole Foods, a logo or something related to Whole Foods that's associated with their brand. And I think that's really smart policy, frankly, because you can't, so if they're going to let their workers, if they're going to say, okay, you can wear a Black Lives Matter mask, are they also going to say you can wear a MAGA mask? Because that's next. So I think it's just safe policy when you have a company and you have workers in uniform that they're not allowed to wear or do anything that's other than wearing the company logo. I think that's just safe policy.
Well, but the problem is now the policy is being hit really hard right now by people who are a little bit more radical than that, who want the change, and I get that. But the fact now that they're politicizing the workplace. Before it used to be don't politicize it in the workplace, and now literally within a couple of weeks, the policy's done a 180. So if you're a company and you hear this and go, how do I handle that if somebody comes into my workplace? I'm making them wear a mask and they're wearing a mask that has a political statement on it.
Yeah, I agree. The beginning of my career was in human resources, and of course, I always think about how horrible it would be in the position of having to make these calls right now, because there's no way to make everybody happy, and so it's it's easier just to say, you wear company branded wear, and that's it. Mm-hmm. It's pretty black and white. What you do when you come into work before you put your uniform on or after that is up to you. But when companies and what's going on is the younger generations are really much more about working for a company that has values and states them, and this is simply an extension of that. Sure. Where employees are saying, okay, Whole Foods, you say these are your values. Why can't we wear a Black Lives Matter mask or something like that? Right. And then, but from there, it's just a slippery slope. And I do not pretend to have the answers, but the easiest way is to just say, here are our values. However, during our work time, you can only wear stuff that says Whole Foods on it. And
and it's a reasonable request, but we don't live in reasonable times. I mean, people are making demands out of there. It's a workplace. You shouldn't be making political statements on your own accord. I don't care what freedom you think it has. If you're getting a check from somebody and you're in a workplace, you have to conform with what they want you to do. You can't go to, you can't work at Arby's and decide you're wearing street clothes one day. No, you got to wear the uniform.
Yes, exactly. And maybe I'm just an old fogey, but I really don't think that's too much to ask. But I also think, it's just going to cause problems no matter what. And if we can agree that here's our organization's values, and here are the ways that we live those values. How do we donate? How do we source products? Et cetera, et cetera. But individual employees deciding to wear political statements, whether it's, as we get toward the fall, whether it's a Biden or a Trump T-shirt or hat, or anything in between, I think you're just creating all kinds of headaches. And so I think it'll pass. I think it's a smart and safe policy for an organization. When it comes to just your apparel, I mean, it's going to cause more trouble than problems it solves, I think. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I would stick with that if I were them.
Well, I mean, this does start, it doesn't start. Yeah, I think it does. It started with Colin Kaepernick in the NFL. I mean, essentially, you're working for the company, you're working for the man, you're in uniform. Is that any different than someone who works at McDonald's?
Yeah. And remember, too, that the NFL also had a policy that when you were doing your post-game press conference, you weren't allowed to wear a logoed hat.
Yeah.
Because actually Tim Tebow got in trouble for wearing something. Guys aren't allowed to wear, their corporate sponsors' hats. And so this isn't really new. I mean, I think anytime you've got change in the world, it does make sense to look at your policies, but I also know that this is going to be a slippery slope for anybody who says, wear whatever you want.
Yeah, I think ultimately what winds up happening is certainly companies can have a sense of social justice and fun and initiatives like that and be inclusive, and, we should be. But at the end of the day, it's company policy for a reason, because now, you can't have every one of your employees sending a different message out there, and it's too messy, because now it looks like the company is endorsing these policies. That's what it's about. It's not a company endorsed policy. And there's really no way to disclaim that if you have a frontline employee or a bunch of frontline employees wearing masks that have a political statement on them.
Yeah. And you just this whole sort of, and you're right. Back, it used to be talk about politics or religion at work, and now I think we're going to be talking about this again between now and November, because as the rest of the year heats up and it gets closer to some of these key elections, not just the presidential election but beyond, people aren't going to be able to keep from talking about it. And, I mean, you'll see, I hear stories, I have friends who've worn masks in public and have people gone by going, you're just a sheep, and then there are people who won't wear masks, and people attack them. So, the world is just very raw right now.
Yeah, well, that's an obvious statement. We also have this, Julie Bauke, whether it's a mask policy at work and what you do there and how far you can go, is that Ohio has extended benefits now, 26 weeks?
Another 26 weeks, yeah. So there's apparently a formula where if your unemployment numbers for a particular month are more than 110% or 110% of what they were either the previous month, then extended unemployment benefits kicked in. I actually just saw this today, and so go on to the Ohio Unemployment Benefits website and poke around. Now, this just doesn't mean it's just free money. I mean, it really have to be, you have to be looking for work. You can't just walk away from your job because you're scared of COVID, and it's a mess. And so, expect that it's going to still take you a while to get your answers, but it has been extended for 26 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Julie Bauke this morning on 700 WLW. Do you have to do anything extra for that, or you have to reapply, or you just roll over?
Yeah, you have to go in and reapply, yes.
Okay.
Yep, because you have to assert that you've been doing this work looking for a job. And so a lot of the old rules still apply, but it's an acknowledgement that the job market is certainly not back to where it was.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, who would have thought 4 months ago we'd be talking about a full year of unemployment benefits for people.
Yes, and it lets us be a lesson, man. You know, you can be sitting on top of the world one day and come crashing down the next, and I think that applies to all of us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Real quick, speaking of masks, speaking of COVID-19, one more line here for you. The mom that was fired for not keeping her kids quiet while she was working from home. She's trying to get work done. I don't know if she's talking to clients or whatever, and the kids are screaming in the background, and she got canned for that.
Yeah, so she got canned because she was not maintaining a professional environment at home. I think that's, anytime I hear those kind of stories, I always think, okay, there's got to be more to the story than that. Because why, if someone was a great employee doing a great job, we're in the middle of this craziness, why would you fire them just because of that? I think there's more to that, but if that's it, and the employers were didn't like the kids in the background, and I think she's saying sexism. I think she's saying that, hey, if this is a man, you would have told him, have your wife.
I hate that. Then prove that.
Right, exactly.
Give me examples of don't play that. Oh, you're doing this because I'm a woman or because of the color of my skin. It's like, okay, give me some evidence that this is going on. You can do that to some degree with George Floyd. Can you really do that with a woman who's staying home with her kids? And here's the thing: is maybe you got to wear their little asses out a little bit more.
Lock them in a closet, I always say.
All right.
Well, what you'd have to do is prove what she'd have to do is show that men who had exactly the same situation were treated differently. That's what you've got to be able to show. It's very, very hard to prove. But, I think employers have to be a little understanding, but at the same time, I put my dogs in a different room when I'm talking to you. And, I know it's different with kids, and we've got to be a little more understanding. But there's got to be more to the story than this. There always is.
I don't know, but how loud could the kids be? Kids can be pretty, needy and stuff like that, jumping on your lap. You're trying to do conference calls and stuff. But, who knows what the course of her business is, if it's the employer, the fact that these kids are just so disruptive and loud that nothing can get done in a meeting. Because, we've done that before. We're on a Zoom call and someone leaves their mic unmuted and it totally destroys the whole conversation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It totally does. And there's like everything. There's degrees. So if this has been a repeat situation, if she refuses to handle it, and it's making the clients upset, and that's different than there's a little bit of noise in the background. So I imagine we'll be hearing more about this one.
I think most people would tolerate a little bit of noise, but we'll see what goes on here. But she's already screaming sexism, which tells me, I don't know if I'm entirely buying that whole thing. Anyway, Julie Bauke, today at noon, will you be or will you won't be?
Will not be doing Facebook Live today.
What is going on with you?
I know. I gotta make the people wait sometimes. So they appreciate me even more next week.
Yeah, one week you do it, the next week it's about consistency, Julie. You gotta be. I'm here every single day, like a tumor.
What I do without you? Yes, I'm like
a radio 3-hour tumor is what I'm. I'm here. It's growing. Radio. Correct. All right. Well, if you were doing it, what would you be talking about at noon?
How to keep your kids quiet.
You're out of topics. Julie's out of topics. That's the problem there. It's awfully hard to create content. I get it. Julie Bauke, the Bauke Group. She is Cincinnati's premier career coach at Bauke Group, Bauke. That's how you spell her name. Anything else? You good?
That's good. We're good.
All right. Peace out. See ya.
Okay, bye.
There you go.